I don't know what you believe about the paranormal, ghosts, monsters, spirits, things that don't fit in any category we understand. But tonight, I want you to listen carefully, because these aren't just stories. They're real encounters, shared by real people, that happened in places you can actually visit. Highways, cabins, hiking trails. Ordinary places you could walk through without ever knowing what's watching you from the dark. Each person swore their story was true. And if you listen closely, you'll understand why they can't sleep the same ever again. So settle in, turn down the lights, and remember this as the night goes on. Some encounters don't stay where they happened. Some follow you home. I'm on a throwaway for obvious reasons. A few people here already know me in real life, and I don't want this tied to my real name, especially with the court stuff. I swear this really happened. You don't have to believe me, but if you ever stop at the Atchafalaya Welcome Center on I-10 in Louisiana late at night, just remember this post. I used to work nights as a janitor at that rest stop. It's the one on the long bridge between Baton Rouge and Lafayette, where you can walk out on the boardwalk and look over the swamp. This was about 2 years ago. I'm not a writer. I barely passed English in high school. I'm just going to say it how it felt to me. On nights, it was usually just me and this older guy named Manny. He'd been there forever and moved slow as hell, but he was funny and liked to talk. The place is nice during the day. Tourists, families, truckers stretching their legs. At night after 1 or 2 a.m., it's different. The swamp gets loud and then real quiet, like something's listening. Traffic thins out. The building feels hollow. The weird stuff started small. Sometimes I'd be mopping the main lobby and I'd hear the front door open and close. The chime would ding, but when I looked up, nobody was there. Or I'd be in the men's restroom and hear a stall door slam behind me, but all the doors would be open when I turned around. I brushed it off. Old building, air pressure, whatever. I didn't want to be the guy who thinks the bathroom is haunted. Manny, though, kept saying, "Night shift ain't good for the soul, mijo. People die on this highway all the time." He told me about wrecks on the bridge. Cars jumping the guardrail into the water, never found. A tour bus years ago. A woman who went missing from the Welcome Center in the early 2000s. They found her car and her purse, but not her. I thought he was messing with me until that one stormy night. It was late September, a Friday night. I remember because LSU had a home game the next day, and all the signs on I-10 were lit up with warnings about traffic. The weather was bad. Heavy rain, lightning over the swamp, wind slapping the glass doors. The whole building kept creaking. I almost called in, but I needed the money. When I got there at 10 p.m., Manny wasn't there. His old Chevy wasn't in the lot either. I called him. No answer. The supervisor texted me around 11. "Manny called off. Just you tonight. Lock up the boardwalk if it gets too bad." So it was just me. One security guard outside in the lot, sitting in his truck watching YouTube, I think. A few truckers in the far spaces, engines idling. Inside, it felt strangely empty. The TVs in the lobby were off. Lights were dim. Around midnight, a family came in, used the bathroom, and left. After that, nobody. At 12:43 a.m., I remember because I kept checking my phone. The front door chime dinged again. A woman walked in alone. She had on a white hoodie that looked soaked from the rain, dark jeans, and no shoes. Her hair was hanging in her face like she was freezing. Her feet were filthy, like she'd been walking barefoot through the parking lot or worse. I said, "Hey ma'am, you okay? You need a towel?" She sort of turned her head toward me, but I couldn't see her face. Just dark, wet hair and the edge of a pale cheek. Without answering, she shuffled straight past me and into the women's restroom. The chime dinged again when the door swung shut behind her. I figured maybe she and her boyfriend had a fight in the car and she didn't want to talk. I get that. I kept mopping. A few minutes passed, maybe 10. The building felt tight, like the air got thicker. Then I noticed something. There were wet footprints on the floor. They led from the front door to the women's restroom. Bare feet small, toes spread like she'd been gripping the floor. Water had dripped off her hoodie too, leaving little dark spots. I followed them with my eyes as I mopped up the lobby. And that's when I saw that the footprints came back out of the women's restroom. They came out, turned toward the side hallway that led to the staff-only maintenance room. But I hadn't seen her come back out. I stared at the women's room door. It was closed, no sound inside. The footprints that came back out weren't just wet now. After about 3 steps, the water turned darker, thicker, like the water had turned to blood. The last few prints before the hallway were smeared, like something had dragged. I told myself I was seeing things. The lights were dim. The floor was shiny. Maybe the reflection of the red exit sign. I went to the women's restroom door and knocked. "Ma'am, you okay in there?" No answer. I pushed the door open slowly. The room was empty. Every stall door was open. No feet under them, no water on the sinks, no dripping hoodie, no bare feet, nothing. Just that weird hum from the lights. I stepped inside and checked each stall anyway. Nothing. I came back out, and my stomach dropped. The bloody footprints were still on the floor, but there were more now. They continued down the side hallway, turning darker, like whoever it was bleeding more and more as they went. It led straight to the maintenance door. That door's always locked. Only staff have keys. Mine was on my belt. My brain said, call security, call the cops, but my body just moved. I walked toward the door, following the prints. The smell hit me halfway down the hall. Copper. Thick, sweet, rotten smell. Blood. I got to the door, hand shaking so hard my keys jingled. I heard something on the other side. A wet sound, like something heavy dragging across concrete. I almost turned around. Honestly, I wish I had. Instead, I unlocked the door and opened it about 3 inches. The smell slammed into me. It was dark inside except for a little light from the exit sign down the stairs. The maintenance room is under the building, kind of half basement where they keep cleaning stuff, old signs, and the pump system for the bathrooms. I could barely see, but there was something on the floor at the bottom of the short stairway. A shape. I fumbled for the light switch, my fingers slipping on the wall. I finally hit it. The lights flicked on, dim, buzzing. For a second, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then it clicked. It was a person, a man, lying twisted on the floor in a pool of blood that had spread all the way to the bottom step. One arm was bent under him at a weird angle. His throat was open, not like a clean cut, more like something had torn it. Shredded skin, dark meat, shiny stuff underneath. His shirt was soaked. His eyes were open and staring right at me. I knew that face. It was Manny. He was wearing the same faded work shirt he always wore. Same gray mustache, same chain with a little cross on it, except he wasn't supposed to be there. He'd called off. I'd checked the parking lot. His truck wasn't outside. For a second, my brain broke. It was like looking at a wax figure of him. My ears started ringing. My vision tunneled. That's when the lights went out. All of them. Hallway, lobby, maintenance room. Total black. I heard the stair behind the door creak. Then something hit the door from the other side, hard. Bang. The door slammed into my face and I fell back. My keys skidded across the floor. Then, in the dark, inches from my ear, a whisper. Let me in. It sounded like a woman. Wet. Like her throat was full of water. I scrambled backwards on my hands and feet, scraped my palms on the tile, and ran. I don't even remember standing up. 1 second I was on the floor, the next I was sprinting through the lobby. The front doors had backup power, thank God. The motion sensors hissed, and they slid open as I ran at them. I burst out into the rain and almost ran into the security guard. He grabbed me and yelled, "Hey, hey, what happened?" I was screaming about Manny, the woman, the blood, the door. I don't know what I said. My voice kept cracking. He dragged me to his truck and called 911. The state troopers came first, then EMS, then some detectives. They went inside. A while later, one of the troopers came back and asked me to walk him through everything again. I did. I told him about the woman, the footprints, the blood, finding Manny. He just stared at me for a long time. Then he said, "Son, we didn't find anybody in there. No body, no blood, no footprints, nothing. They checked the maintenance room. They said it was dusty. No sign anybody had been down there in weeks." I thought they were messing with me until they took me back inside. The floor was clean, no prints, no smears, nothing. The maintenance door was locked. My keys were still on my belt. They pulled the security footage. On camera, it showed me mopping the floor. Then I suddenly stopped, staring at the front door like I saw something. But nobody came in. The door didn't open. Then I walked toward the women's restroom, talking to myself, knocking on the door, going inside. I was gesturing like I was arguing with someone who wasn't there. The hallway camera showed me walking toward the maintenance door alone. No footprints, no blood on the floor. Then I just froze in front of the door for about 20 seconds. Didn't move. Then I turned and ran full speed out the front doors. None of what I saw was on the video. They thought I had a breakdown. Maybe stress, maybe something else. They took me to a hospital in Baton Rouge overnight. Psych eval, blood work, all that. I kept telling them about Manny. The next day, my supervisor called me. "Manny didn't show up," he said. "He never called. His sister went by his house. He's not there. His truck's gone." That was 2 years ago. They never found him. Here's the part I haven't told anyone in real life. About a month after it happened, I couldn't stop thinking about that missing woman Manny told me about. The one from the early 2000s. So I went online and looked her up. Her name was Teresa Holmes. She disappeared in 2003. Last seen at the Atchafalaya Welcome Center after an argument with her boyfriend, who said she stormed off barefoot into the rain. Witnesses said she was wearing a white hoodie and jeans. There was one detail that made me feel sick. In one article, it said the last person who remembered seeing her before she vanished was the night shift janitor. His name was Manuel Manny Delgado. His quote in the article, "She asked me, 'Can you open the back room for me? I need somewhere quiet to calm down.' He said he refused. Policy. She walked away, and that was that. Except she never came back." Here's the thing, though. The article was written in 2003. Manny would have been the same age I knew him. Same last name. Same face in the tiny, grainy black and white picture. But when I met him in 2023, he told me he'd only been working there 5 years. The dates don't add up. Unless something else does. Sometimes I think about the way he always said, "Night shift ain't good for the soul." The way he'd stare at the maintenance door when we walked by, like he was listening for something. And I think about that whisper by my ear, "Let me in." Everyone says I had a psychotic break, that my brain mixed up Manny's stories with the storm and stress. That's what I tell the court-appointed therapist, too. But at night, in my apartment, I hear wet footsteps in the hallway sometimes. Bare feet, slow, dragging. They always stop right outside my bedroom door. I don't open it. I know if I do, she's going to be standing there in that soaked white hoodie. And this time, she won't be asking Manny to open the back room. She'll be asking me. This happened last year in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, inside the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I know how that sounds already. The woods are haunted, big shock. But just read this before you decide I'm lying or losing my mind. I swear on everything I love, I am not making any of this up. Last October, I took a solo weekend trip to clear my head. I just gotten out of a 5-year relationship, and my ex moved out the week before. The house felt empty, so I booked a cheap cabin on the edge of the Smokies. Nothing fancy, just wood panels, a small bed, and a porch. The first night was normal, cold, quiet. The kind of quiet that feels way too big for one person. The second night is when the weird stuff started. I had gone hiking earlier that day and came back around 6 p.m. My legs were sore, so I took a long shower. When I came out, the front door was slightly open. Not wide, just a few inches. I told myself I must have left it like that. Maybe the air pressure pushed it open. But when I looked down, there were muddy footprints coming in from the porch. Small prints, bare feet. Toes pointed forward like someone walked straight inside. At first, I froze. Then I did what every dumb person in horror stories does. I called out, "Hello? Someone there?" Nothing. I checked the bathroom, under the bed, the closet. No signs of anyone. But the footprints stopped dead in the middle of the room. Like the person just vanished. I spent the rest of the night sitting on the bed, holding a metal flashlight like a weapon. I barely slept. On the third day, I decided to pack up early and head home. Screw nature. Healing can wait. But when I opened the door that morning, something was hanging from the porch. It was a wind chime made of little bones. Not animal bones either. These were thin, short, and clean, like something from fingers. Someone had tied them with old fishing line. They clicked together in the breeze like teeth. I freaked out and called the rental office. They sent a maintenance guy named Tom. Older dude, kind of rough around the edges. He took one look at the bone chime and got pale. "This ain't funny," he muttered. "Not again." "Again?" I asked. He wouldn't answer. He took it down, dropped it in his truck bed, and told me to stay inside. He came back 20 minutes later with a rifle in hand. Not aimed at me, just holding it like he expected something to come crawling out of the woods. "Pack your stuff," he said. "You're switching cabins, now." I didn't argue. While I was throwing things in my bag, I asked him straight, "What's going on out here?" He hesitated, glanced toward the tree line, then said, "People go missing in these mountains all the damn time. Some get found, some don't. Some ain't people no more." He wouldn't explain more. We got in his truck and drove down the narrow gravel road to a second cabin. He walked me inside to check it out. Everything looked normal. A bit cleaner, even. "You'll be safe here," he said. Before he left, he stopped at the door and said something that didn't make sense until later. "If you hear knocking after midnight, don't open the door, don't talk to it." Then he shut the door and drove off. I thought he was being dramatic. I wish I'd listened. That night, around 1:13 a.m., I woke up to a soft tapping on the cabin window. Not the door, the window. At first I thought it was a branch, but the tapping was too steady. Tap, 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 tap. I sat up slowly. My heart was thudding so hard it hurt. The window had thin curtains, and the tapping was coming from the other side of them, right next to where I slept. I whispered to myself, "Don't look. Don't look." And of course, I looked. I pulled the curtain back just an inch. And there it was, a face pressed against the glass. But not like a normal face. The skin looked wrong, stretched too tight, pale like wet paper. The eyes were sunken so deep they looked like holes. And the mouth was too wide, split at the corners, like it had been cut open and healed wrong. Its teeth were tiny and sharp, not human-shaped at all. When it saw me looking, its face twitched, in this awful jerking motion, like it was trying to smile but didn't know how. Then it pressed its hand against the glass. Small, bare, muddy. Same footprints from the first cabin. I jumped back and nearly fell off the bed. The thing started scratching at the glass, leaving long streaks like it was testing its strength. A soft voice came through the window, more like a whisper forced through a throat that didn't work anymore. Let me in. I'm cold. I covered my ears, curled up on the bed, and prayed the glass would hold. The scratching turned to pounding, hard, then harder. I remembered what Tom said. Don't talk to it. Don't open the door. But he never said anything about windows. The pounding suddenly stopped. Everything went quiet. I waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15. Nothing. I finally stood up and grabbed my flashlight. The window was smeared with mud and something darker. I took a deep breath, moved close to it, and shined the flashlight outside. There were footprints all over the porch, not just one set, 3, maybe 4 different sets, all small, all barefoot, leading toward the trees, leading away from the cabin, and leading toward the back door, right toward where I was standing. I threw my stuff in my car at 4 a.m. and left without checking out. The rental office called me the next day asking why I broke the back door on my way out. I told them to keep the deposit. Now here's the part I didn't tell him. When I got home, my neighbor asked if my niece visited while I was gone. I said I didn't have a niece. He said, well, a little barefoot kid knocked on your door last night, pale as a ghost. She kept asking if you were home. He said she walked off before he could get a better look at her face. I moved 2 months later, and sometimes, not often, but enough, I'll wake up at night to a soft tapping on the window. Same rhythm, tap, 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 tap. I never look anymore, because I know whatever is out there followed me down from the mountains, and this time it knows my house. This took place in Baraboo, Wisconsin, near an old hiking trail by Devil's Lake. If you know the place, you know it gets creepy fast once the sun goes down. The cliffs, the woods, the way the wind sounds against the rocks, it all feels ancient. Too old for humans to be messing around in. This was 2 summers ago. I had just moved up there for a job at a warehouse. Didn't know anyone yet. My co-worker, Brandon, kept telling me Devil's Lake was the best place in the world to clear your head. He basically dragged me out one evening for a night hike to watch the stars. I should have trusted my instincts and said no. We parked at one of the side lots around 8:45 p.m. The sun was already dipping behind the tree line, making everything purple and quiet. There were a few campers grilling near the water, some kayaks pulled up on the shore, kids laughing, normal stuff. We took the path that goes up toward the balanced rock trail. Steep, rocky, and one wrong step from twisting your ankle. Brandon kept talking about the energy of the place. He was into crystals and moon phases and stuff. I mostly just nodded. At the top, the view was insane. The lake looked black, like a giant bowl of ink. The cliffs on the other side were just tall silhouettes. We sat for a while, not talking much. Right before sunset completely vanished, something weird happened. I saw a man standing down below on the trail. Not walking, just standing, facing us, like he'd been there a while. He was tall, skinny, wearing what looked like dark clothes and a hood. Even from far away, I could tell something about him was off. His posture, maybe, or the way he wasn't moving at all. I nudged Brandon. Do you see that guy? He squinted. Oh yeah, probably another hiker. Maybe. But the longer I watched him, the colder I felt. Like he wasn't just looking at us. Like he was waiting. The sun finally disappeared, and darkness swallowed everything. We started heading back down the trail with our flashlights on. It was a long walk. Lots of boulders, roots, uneven steps. The woods were so thick you couldn't see more than 10 feet off the trail. Maybe 10 minutes into the walk, we heard something. A soft clicking sound, like pebbles tapping together or bones. Brandon froze. "You hear that?" "Yeah," I whispered. The clicking came from behind us. Slow, steady, getting closer. Brandon turned his flashlight back up the trail. Nothing there. We sped up, and the clicking sped up. Then we heard a low grunt. Long, dry, not human. "Let's go," Brandon muttered, already moving faster. But the faster we walked, the louder the clicking got, until it turned into a weird, scraping sound, like something dragging along the rocks. We came around a bend and suddenly smelled something rotten, like wet earth mixed with something dead. The kind of smell that sticks in the back of your throat. Then we saw it. A figure standing in the middle of the trail ahead of us. Not the man from earlier. This was wrong. It looked human-shaped, but the body was bent at strange angles, like the joints didn't match up right. Its arms were too long, hands dragging the dirt. The head was tilted all the way to the side, almost resting on its shoulder. And the mouth, God, it hung open like it had been ripped wider, reaching almost to the ears. No lips left, just jagged teeth stretching in a sick grin. I whispered, "Brandon, run." But it was too late. The thing moved, not walked, not crawled, just snapped forward like someone yanking a puppet string. Its limbs clattered when it moved. That was the clicking sound. Bones hitting bone. Something loose inside its chest rattled like a bag of sticks. Brandon screamed first. We bolted off the trail, crashing through bushes. My flashlight smacked my thigh and went out. Branches scratched my arms and face. I tripped twice but kept running. Behind us, the bone clicking got louder. Faster. Like it was gaining on us. Brandon yelled, "This way! Go! Go!" I followed the sound of his voice. Then he screamed again, a different scream. High, sharp, cut off too fast. I turned toward him and shined my backup flashlight. What I saw will be in my nightmares forever. Brandon was on the ground, face down, and the creature was crouched on top of him. Its long fingers were digging into his back, breaking skin, pulling, tearing, blood soaking the dirt. Then it looked up at me. Its eyes were too big, white and clouded like old marbles. But it knew I was there. It knew exactly where I was standing. It dropped its jaw even wider. I heard something crack and lunged. I ran so fast I don't remember touching the ground. I just remember branches slapping my face and the smell of blood behind me. The creature didn't chase me far. Maybe it was busy with Brandon. I burst out near the lake, ran straight to a group of campers, and collapsed on the gravel. They called 911 immediately. When the police and park rangers searched the woods, they found Brandon, or parts of him. They said it was a cougar attack. They always say that. But I saw the shape, the arms, the face, the mouth that opened too wide, the clicking bones. Cougars don't do that. A ranger pulled me aside later and asked me to repeat everything I saw. I did. He didn't say I was lying. He didn't say I was crazy. He just said, "You're not the first one to report something like that out here." Then he told me to never come back to Devil's Lake after dark. Ever. 2 months later, I started hearing that clicking sound again. At first, it was outside my apartment window, just once or twice a week. Then outside my bedroom door. Now, sometimes it comes from my closet. I moved across the state. Didn't matter. It followed me. Last night, I dropped my phone and it slid under the bed. When I reached down to grab it, I heard a whisper from the mattress, springs above my hand. Not a word, just breathing. And a soft little click, like two small bones tapping together. I don't look under my bed anymore. I don't open my closet unless the lights are on. And at night, when everything is quiet, I swear I hear it, learning how to walk on the hardwood floor. Click, 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 getting closer. If you made it through all 3 encounters, you probably feel the same cold pressure on the back of your neck that they did. Not every haunting is tied to a house. Not every creature stays in the woods. And not every missing person is truly gone. Sometimes, something gets interested in you. Sometimes it remembers your face. Sometimes it follows your footsteps long after you think you're safe. So tonight, when the house settles or you hear a light tapping on the window, or something shifts in the hallway, just tell yourself it's nothing. Because once you start believing in what's really out there, that's when it notices you. Thanks for listening. Sleep well if you can.